So May 25th, 2025, that date is, uh, it's generating some serious buzz, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah,
You might have seen it pop up online, maybe with a sense of intrigue or perhaps, a raised eyebrow.
definitely getting noticed. Apparently, the worlds of astrology and numerology have it circled. Big time.
Right. And look, whether you're fully bought in or, frankly, a bit skeptical, we've been looking at some fascinating discussions around this.
Uh-huh. Specifically focusing on a dialogue between two people, Lena and Jason.
Exactly. So our aim in this deep dive is really just to unpack the arguments they're making about May 25th, 2025.
Explore the significance they're attributing to it, astrologically and numerologically.
Yeah, we just want to understand the ideas. No judgment calls here.
And what's interesting right off the bat is how these two systems, astrology and numerology, seem to point to the same date in their discussion.
Yeah.
Lena, in the material, she paints quite a vivid astrological picture.
Okay, let's dive into that then. This sort of cosmic forecast. Lena flags a major celestial event for May 25th, 2025.
Right. Jupiter aligning with Pluto. And they're both in Aquarius.
Okay, Jupiter meets Pluto in Aquarius. And she mentioned something else too.
Yeah, as if that wasn't enough, there's also a full moon happening at the same time in Sagittarius.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And her description for all that happening together?
She calls it a cosmic pressure cooker.
A cosmic pressure cooker. Okay. So what does that actually mean? What does that boil down to astrologically?
Well, let's break down the players. You've got Pluto. In astrology, that often points towards really deep transformation,
Okay.
cycles of destruction even, but paving the way for rebirth. Think major societal shifts.
Right. Fundamental change. Got
So-
it. And Jupiter.
Jupiter acts like an amplifier. It expands whatever it touches, so it brings growth, but also potential intensity, makes things bigger.
So Pluto's the deep change agent. Jupiter turns up the volume.
Yeah.
What about Aquarius? We hear that phrase a lot.
Yeah, age of Aquarius. In astrology, Aquarius is strongly linked to the collective, society as a whole.
Okay.
Also innovation, progress, sometimes revolution even.
So putting it all together, this alignment, according to Lena, isn't just about, your personal life.
Not exactly. Her argument is that this points to large-scale, potentially global transformations, things affecting everyone.
Interesting. Like the universe is setting the stage for something big, societally. But then she also brings in numerology,
Right, a different lens entirely.
which always feels like, I don't know, a different way of reading the signs. How does May 25th, 2025 stack up number-wise?
So Lena walks through the calculation. You take the numbers from the date, 5 for May,
Okay.
0.2 and 5 for the 25th day,
Right.
and then 2025 for the year, 2025.
And add them all up.
5 plus 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, that gives you 21.
As you want. Okay.
And in numerology, you often reduce multi-digit numbers. So you add the digits of 21 together, 2 plus 1 equals 3.
3. So the whole day boils down to the number 3. And Lena gives that number some pretty heavy meanings.
She does. She connects it to creation, chaos, and the divine trinity.
Wow. Okay. Creation, chaos, and the divine trinity. That's quite a spectrum for one number.
It is. Numerologically, 3 is often seen as representing creativity, expression, maybe completing a cycle like beginning, middle, end.
Okay, that makes sense.
The chaos link suggests that sometimes new things, new structures, they emerge from instability, disruption.
Right. Creation out of chaos.
And that divine trinity part that touches on a kind of wholeness, maybe a universal significance that some traditions link to the number 3.
So it's fascinating how both angles, the astrology and the numerology, as Lena presents them, seem to land on this idea of really potent, transformative energy around that specific date.
Exactly. There's a convergence there in her interpretation.
Lena also brings up this idea of historical patterns, suggesting that big world events often seem to cluster around similar astrological setups.
Like history rhymes with the stars, in a way.
Yeah, it does make you think about how we look for patterns, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Is it just coincidence when major events line up with these alignments? Or is there, as Lena suggests, some kind of deeper link?
A direct influence, maybe.
That seems to be her perspective, that these cosmic events can actually correspond with things happening down here on Earth.
Yeah, and this is where their conversation, particularly Lena's side, heads towards some pretty dramatic possibilities.
Yeah, it gets quite speculative.
She actually outlines some worst-case scenarios. Things like, well, a global blackout, communications, power grids, satellites going dark,
Whoa.
and also sudden, really weird natural events like the sky turning red or strange earthquakes happening out of the blue.
Okay, yeah, that definitely steps into the realm of extreme hypotheticals.
Feels a bit like science fiction almost.
And it's important to frame those as her interpretations, her projections, based on the energies she sees, not definite predictions.
Of course, but she also talks about more subtle potential signs too, things that might be less dramatic but still noticeable.
Like what?
Like maybe lots of people suddenly having the same strange dream, or animals acting really unusually, or even something like the stock market crashing for no obvious economic reason.
Right. Those are more like potential indicators of a shift in the collective mood, or maybe instability in the systems we rely on.
Less about one big bang and more about a kind of pervasive feeling of change.
Exactly. A sense of unease or flux that could show up in different ways.
Now, crucially, the source material we looked at, this conversation, it isn't just Lena's perspective.
No, absolutely not. Jason provides a really important counterpoint.
He brings the skepticism, right? Questions these interpretations pretty directly.
He does. He suggests, maybe humans are just wired to see patterns everywhere. We look for meaning, even if it isn't inherent.
Which is a fair point. We do like connecting dots.
And his perspective brings that crucial element of critical thinking into their discussion. It reminds us, and you listening, to consider other explanations.
Yeah, correlation isn't causation, basically.
Exactly. So again, our goal here isn't to say Lena's right or Jason's right. It's just to understand the logic behind the claims in their conversation.
Report impartially on what they discussed.
Precisely. Understand her arguments, understand his counter-arguments, get a feel for their exchange.
Okay, so let's try and pull the threads together. Based on this Lena-Jason discussion we explored, May 25th, 2025.
Yep.
Astrologically, it's flagged because of that big Jupiter-Pluto alignment in Aquarius, plus the full moon in Sagittarius, Lena's cosmic pressure cooker.
With potential for upheaval, transformation, big global shifts.
And then numerologically, the date shakes out to the number 3.
Which Lena links to creation, chaos, maybe something divine or universally significant.
And she weaves in this idea of historical patterns, suggesting major events cluster around times like these.
Leading to those quite dramatic, though hypothetical, scenarios she outlines. Blackouts, strange phenomena.
Right, but also the more subtle stuff.
And we absolutely have to underline the speculative nature of all this. These are interpretations.
Lena presents them strongly, but Jason's skepticism is right there in the mix too.
Yeah, his viewpoint encourages caution, encourages critical thinking. The conversation itself really highlights that tension, doesn't it?
Tension between what?
Between, seeking meaning in these potential cosmic signals and maintaining a grounded analytical view of what's actually happening.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. We humans, we have this drive to find meaning, to see patterns, right?
It seems innate.
So how do we navigate that line? How do we balance curiosity about what might be coming, especially when presented with ideas like these?
With staying rooted in the present, in what we actually know and observe.
Yeah. Are these potential cosmic omens something to factor in? Or just part of the incredibly complex, often unpredictable reality we live in?
It's definitely something to ponder. What weight, if any, do you give to interpretations like Lena's versus perspectives like Jason's?
Food for thought as we all navigate the days ahead.